What's up guys, you have Jagus. This video is going to be a full but quick breakdown on every infantry, vehicle and building for the Tau Empire, along with some small tips to help you better understand the race. After watching this video and familiarizing yourself with how Tau work, I would suggest checking out the Tau build orders guide video I made a while back, so that you can then put your knowledge to practice and fight for the greater good. Alright, let's get into it. The Tau are no doubt a very powerful race, as they have an answer to every problem at every stage of the game, with the minor exception of early tier 1. They are most known for their long range fire warriors, Tau's poster boys that are basically snipers which don't suck. A unique feature of the race is that in tier 3 the player will get to choose between two paths, Kauyon, the patient hunter, or Mont'ka, the killing blow. Both do kind of exactly what they sound like. Kauyon gives you access to more powerful melee units to better support your ranged units, whereas Mont'ka unlocks the hard-hitting, high-damage potential of the Tau Empire. The difficult part is always deciding which to choose. Mont'ka, with its XV8 crisis battle teams and Hammerhead gunships, will make quick work of tough infantry squads and vehicles, but should only be used offensively due to their lower health. Kauyon's Krootox and Kroot Hounds can lead the way for your ranged attackers, and more ably trap your opponent under a wave of plasma fire, with optics and metallurgy providing some nice buffs as well. Usually for me, if I'm unsure, Kauyon is my default go-to. But can't I just build one building, delete it, then build the other so I get troops from both paths? No, and I know you've tried that before, you cheeky Guela. Once you start building and finish either structure, the other is locked out of the game permanently, so you kinda have to choose carefully. Alright, let's get on with the actual breakdown, starting with the infantry units of this race. Stealth suits are infiltrated from the get-go, making them an extremely useful unit for capping, harassing, and scouting. It is actually best to keep them on cease fire stance, as this will not alert enemies to their presence while scouting. Planting them in your opponent's base this way is a good strategy for keeping track of their activity. Stealth suits become game-changing from tier 2 onwards, as they can obtain fusion blasters for vehicles and buildings, and their Shas'ui squad leader grants the EMP grenade ability that will stun most vehicles, including relic vehicles like the Monolith and Baneblade, which can last long enough to finish off that vehicle. If your opponent's army is laced with detectors, you can always do a sneaky jump into their undefended base with 2+ fully upgraded squads and start wrecking all their buildings, forcing them to take action. Vespids are the ultimate harassment unit in tier 1 and should be used for just that, harassing. When fully charged, their jump ability allows them to jump a whopping 3 times, with each jump only taking 30 seconds to recharge. In addition, their high building damage and destabilization ability means they should be used to constantly jump from building to building, in particular plasma generators and listening posts. Their other ability, Sonic Pulse, releases a strong blast that can knock back infantry, which can be used to interrupt repairers or set up easy targets for your fire warriors. Vespids are expensive at the start, 250 blue and 50 green, so it's important to get your money's worth out of using them. There's no doubt fire warriors have incredible range and damage right from the beginning, but once they are locked in melee, they become completely useless. Additionally, they have poor line of sight and will require spotters like stealth suits to utilize their maximum range. In tier 2 you can add either 2 Shas'uis, 2 shield drones, or one of each to the squad. Shas'uis will add the photon grenade ability, and the shield drone's energy shield, when activated, will reduce range damage by 50% for 20 seconds. A good strategy for increasing the survivability of your fire warriors is to hide them in Devilfish troop carriers should they get caught out in melee. They are expensive to produce and reinforce, especially considering they start out at 3 in a squad, so try not to let too many die if you can help it. Kroots are the melee specialists of the Tau Empire, and despite being unpopular among beginners, are actually a really viable option when needing to harass ranged enemies. It's important to use Kroots and fire warriors together, as Kroots initially don't have a lot of health and can get mowed down pretty quickly without support. Their Cannibalize ability allows them to feast on corpses in the area, giving them a max health bonus to each member of the squad. It's important to note that this bonus is applied to all Kroots currently on the field, not just the one eating, and is also permanent, meaning any new squads you make from now on will continue to have the buff, which maxes out at 300. If you have any existing Carnivore or Hound squads out on the field, it would be a good idea to attach a Kroot Shaper to them. Shapers increase speed and health generation by 25%, as well as increasing the squad's maximum health by 10%. Another strategy is to send out the Shaper on his own to tie up any stray ranged squads, as his 935 HP and commander armor allow him to soak some damage before getting into close hand-to-hand combat. They're relatively cheap and take up 0 squad cap, so you may find them to be a good alternative to tie up squads in a pinch. Just bear in mind that this is a tier 2 unit. The incredible sight range of the Pathfinder team means that they should be used as the primary spotters for your long-ranged units. As well as being detectors, Pathfinders have the ability Mark Target, and what people sometimes forget is that this ability can be used on any target, even vehicles, as long as the target is in a building. Once marked, an enemy unit will take 75% more damage from all ranged weaponry, including those of your allies, making it a formidable ability for quickly getting rid of heavier infantry and vehicles. While Pathfinders have much less range than their Fire Warrior counterparts, any enemies hit by the pulse carbines will have their movement speed reduced by a small amount. This can help to slow down charging melee units, allowing your Fire Warriors to pick them off before they get too close. At first, the XV-88 Broadside Battlesuit doesn't offer too much in terms of firepower. It has slow speed and its missile launchers do have some knockback but not a lot of damage. Once entrenched however, the Battlesuit becomes immobile to utilize its twin railguns, which fires a solid blue beam that can one-shot most units and deal massive damage to vehicles from a great distance. While this is extremely powerful, the slow fire rate and immobility means the XV-88 is quite vulnerable and should only be used as a support unit with other troops nearby to protect it. This, along with its expensive cost and 3 population cap, make it a pretty situational unit. XV-8 Crisis Battlesuits become available once you have the Mont'ka command post built, and boast incredible firepower when used correctly. They are rather tanky and can't be tied up in melee, but it is crucial to keep an eye on them as they can be focused down easily and their jump animation takes slightly longer than others. Equipping them with flamers and jumping in close to infantry squads is one of the best ways to use them, as the flamer can melt entire squads in seconds as well as deal a lot of morale damage. The missile pod does do more damage than the fusion blaster it replaces, but because of the trade-off with the flamer, most players usually go for that one instead. In contrast to the XV-8s, Kroot Hound packs become available once you have the Kauyon command post built, and are much more formidable than the Carnivore counterparts when it comes to melee. Attach a Shaper with Feral Leap researched to use them to their full potential. There's not much else to say about these guys, other than to make sure you have enough reinforced to further increase their survivability and damage potential. The primary hero for the Tau Empire. The Tau Commander has very low health, but makes up for it with his long range, abilities, and weapon upgrades. Use his superior range to constantly apply pressure to enemy units, especially commanders and builders. His target acquired ability can instantly finish off low health units and, when used on a squad, will always prioritize the squad's leader. His jump pack can be used to get close to an enemy or to quickly retreat when things get messy, and each jump has a cooldown of 45 seconds. His snare trap ability will drop a trap at the targeted location, which infiltrates itself after a short 10 seconds delay. Any units caught in the trap suffer a major movement penalty, and this should be used in combination with your Fire Warriors to quickly mow the slow squad down. Try to get in the habit of placing as many snare traps as you can afford, as these can make or break enemy assaults. In terms of weapon upgrades, getting the Flamer early is a good idea, as you can jump in close to an enemy squad and break its morale fairly quickly to give you the edge in some tier 1 fights. In tier 2, the missile pods is usually the next best option, as the fusion blaster, despite being a good anti-vehicle weapon, will cut the commander's range in half, so it's usually better to keep his long range burst cannon until you hit tier 3, in which case simply go straight for the plasma rifle, as this weapon is literally good against everything. The Ethereal is a vital tier 3.5 unit as he grants a 200 health and morale buff to all Tau units, except snare traps and Harbinger drones, while alive. But if he dies, your units will also lose health and have their morale broken, so it's important to keep him alive for as long as possible. Since he cannot be attached to squads, you will have to put some effort into microing him to achieve this. He is able to summon a squad of Shas'ui bodyguards to protect him, which I will cover in the next part. His holographic projection ability clones one of your units of your choice, and can be used to trick enemies or to absorb damage while the rest of your army moves in. But his deadliest ability, in my opinion, the air Caste Bombardment, targets an area and does massive damage, taking 20 seconds to expand from its point of impact to maximum range. This effectively can be used to deny units passing through this area for the duration of the ability. Summoned by the Ethereal, Shas'ui bodyguards have double the range of standard fire warriors, and are simply used for this single fact. Each bodyguard's damage is only slightly better than an upgraded fire warrior's, and you can only have a max of 4 in the squad. So these guys are there just to be annoying more than anything, but hey, they're free. Now that that's all the troops covered, it's time to move on to the vehicles. Devilfish troop carriers enter the battlefield already infiltrated, and are a good option for protecting your troops and keeping your fire warriors at a safe range. Of course, once they have been detected, it doesn't take much at all to destroy them, so always try to keep an eye out for any anti-vehicle units in the area, as you can be sure this must mean a detector will be coming for you shortly. Other strategies include using them offensively since their combined weapons can do a fair amount of damage to even heavy infantry and commanders. They are also very cheap, only costing 75 blue and 50 green. Skyray's function is the main artillery units for the Tau, boasting very high range and knockback with their missiles. It's worth to note that these missiles also do good damage against vehicles, but the real firepower comes with their missile barrage ability. Missile barrage lets the Skyray unleash a payload of missiles at a targeted area, causing massive damage to anything caught within, even buildings. Therefore, you'll see most Tau players build a few of these vehicles to make full use of this ability and its destructive power. Since Skyrays are extremely fragile and expensive for power, it's important to keep them protected as much as possible to get your value out of their cost. No, but seriously, you very rarely see this unit get played because of its high cost and short range weapon. Combine this with its really low health and you get enough set. It's better to use your resources to purchase something more useful, such as the drone harbingers can spit out drones every 3 seconds, provided you have enough power and supply. Hordes of drones can easily out-DPS small to medium attack forces consisting of infantry and heavy infantry, and can even do decent damage against vehicles and buildings. Double-click a single drone to select all the ones you can currently see to make it easier to manage them, but you may need the camera mod to do this effectively. Drones last 40 seconds before powering down and cost 35 power each. Their quick spawn time means you can use them as a substitute army until you build your main attack force. However, be careful, as they can quickly drain your power without you noticing it. Like other Tau vehicles, the drone Harbinger is extremely fragile, so keep it protected, as losing it will put a stop to the drone mass. Barracudas are an excellent anti-vehicle, anti-building aircraft unit that can make quick work of pesky basilisks or other artillery hiding in your enemy's back line. Their mobility means you should use them to pick out important targets, including listening posts and plasma generators, or going straight into an opponent's undefended base. Just be sure to steer clear of anti-vehicle weaponry because, well, you know how Tau like to make all their vehicles out of paper, right? Hammerhead gunships become available once teachings of Mont'ka has been researched, and is one of the best vehicles in the game in terms of pure damage output, with its twin burst cannons and powerful long-range railgun. The obvious drawback to this is its lower durability compared to other tier 4 heavy tanks, but in the right hands this beast of a vehicle will cause utter destruction to anything and everything. Combining the Pathfinder's marked target ability with the Hammerhead's firepower can make quick work of even a Baneblade or restored Monolith. Technically not a vehicle, but since it takes vehicle cap, I decided to include it in the vehicle section anyway. The Krootox become available once teachings of Kauyon has been researched. These units are walking tanks, similar to Dreadnoughts and Wraithlords, and are used in much the same way, to absorb damage and tie up any ranged enemies that may threaten your Fire Warriors. Their astonishing 6500 health, compared with their Demon type armor, means it takes a great deal of firepower to bring one down. Use them in conjunction with Kroot Hounds and you'll have a terrifying melee force to reckon with. It should also be noted that the gunner on top actually has decent damage and should be used to gun down retreating foes for better DPS. Finally for this list we have the Greater Knarloc and the relic unit of the Tau Empire. Compared to the demon relic units of other races, the Knarloc has the least health but boasts an incredibly high melee damage, powerful enough to beat the Swiggoth in a one-on-one. Beyond that, it has no other abilities or ranged capabilities, and you will often see players forego its large vehicle cap to invest in other vehicles instead. Though obviously very cute, its slow speed and clumsiness make it a less desirable option to have, especially in team games, in which case you should probably hand over your relic to your Imperial Guard or Space Marine ally instead. That basically sums up all there is to say for the Tau vehicles, so now I will be moving on to the buildings and the researches they contain. The main base of operations for the Tau, it produces your builders, stealth suits, and Vespids. The jump backs research should always be done as no Tau army is complete without it. Stealth burst cannon enhancements triples the damage of your stealth suits, and should only be researched if you are fighting hard in tier 1, as it does not apply to fusion blasters in tier 2. This is your standard barracks for tier 1, and produces most of the Tau units you'll be using in the game. It's pretty cheap at 150 requisition compared to the costs of other races, however this could be due to the fact that Tau units are so expensive. This building is your gateway to tier 2, and is also the main research center for the Tau. This key structure adds +5 infantry and +6 vehicle cap, as well as unlocks all the other tier 2 plus buildings while it stands. Target lock will increase the accuracy of your stealth teams by 20%, including the fusion blasters, so it's a must-have when you mass them. Speaking of must-haves, advanced pulse rifles increases the range and damage of Fire Warrior and stealth teams by a fair amount, making this research mandatory as soon as you hit tier 2. Missile Barrage adds the, you guessed it, Missile Barrage ability to your Skyray gunships. And finally, Feral Leap will allow your Carnivores and Hound packs, not the Krootox unfortunately, to pounce on your enemies, knocking them back and doing a bit of damage. This is especially useful for quickly closing that short gap and disrupting enemy troops to allow your ranged squads to focus them down. Improved metallurgy and targeting optics become available only if you choose to go the Kauyon path. Metallurgy gives a health buff to your Fire Warriors, Tau Commander and vehicles, as well as the Krootox and Greater Knarloc. Optics drastically increases the line of sight and firing range of stealth teams and Fire Warriors, with the latter being able to outrange even the Vindicare Assassin. For all things Kroot related, this is the place to go for the Kroot Shaper, Kroot Hounds, Krootox and Greater Knarloc. This building is pretty situational. Most players won't make it in tier 2, unless you really need to make a Shaper, which is a good idea if you have Carnivores on the field, but otherwise, Mont'ka all the way, baby! This building houses all your vehicular needs. The only problem is it's so goddamn huge. It would be wise to leave some open space in your base early on so that you're not forced to place it outside where it can be exposed. It will also provide +2 vehicle cap per structure. These are the tier 3 buildings for Tau, and building 1 permanently disables the other for the rest of the game. Both will add an extra +5 infantry and +6 vehicle cap when built, but this bonus is lost if the post is destroyed. The Kauyon command post will unlock the Kroot Hound pack from the Shaping Center, as well as the improved metallurgy and targeting optics researches in the path to Enlightenment. The Tier 4 research Teachings of Kauyon will allow you to make Krootox once completed. The Mont'ka command post unlocks XV8 Crisis Battlesuits in the Tau Barracks, and after researching Teachings of Mont'ka, you can make Hammerhead Gunships from the vehicle beacon. Both teachings unlock the Greater Knarloc, and either building is required to produce the Coalition Center. The final building of the Tau Empire, the Coalition Center, grants access to the Ethereal and provides a +6 vehicle cap bonus while standing. It also says here that the Coalition Center doesn't count towards the Annihilate victory condition, and that you'll still lose if it's your only building left. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, and I'm kinda too lazy to find out, so if you guys want to find out Oh, it is true. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. This building doesn't count towards Annihilate, but webways do? Man, fuck. So there you go guys, that was my minor breakdown of the Tau Empire. Sorry I had to keep it so short. With a number of things available, I could honestly spend hours and hours talking about each and every one. But hopefully this video has helped you in some way, and if you think I left anything out, please feel free to comment it down below so others can see it as well. Other than that, thanks for sticking along, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.